Thank you, Dr. Schaefer, for the warm introduction, and thank you, music tech majors, for the opportunity to share some of my research with you today on this topic. I will be presenting a draft of my upcoming 20-minute paper presentation that's been modified to fit this longer format. In the final form factor, I'm going to release this talk as a 20-minute video on YouTube, integrating the ride throughout the video experience. It's kind of like Subway Surfers and down the bottom corner explicitly, all right? So stay tuned for that version. It's going to drop on my YouTube this summer after the conference, okay? On September 4th, 2001, Tokyo Disney Sea opened through a partnership of Walt Disney Company and the Oriental Land Company. It was the first water-themed park, featuring many nautical explorations with 7 themed port of call lands. Disney Sea was incredibly popular after opening, reaching 10 million guests in 307 days, less than a year after its grand opening. There was just one problem. Tokyo Disney Sea had a poorly received ride. Sinbad's 7 Voyages opened alongside the park. As a boat ride, tracing the narratives of Sinbad, the ride was dark, and its scary theme was unpopular with guests, especially younger children. In 2007, the ride featured a massive overhaul, reusing and retooling the existing animatronics to create a brighter narrative. It introduced a playful mascot tiger cub, Chandu, and for our attention today, a new song, The Compass of Your Heart, composed by Alan Menken with lyrics by Glenn Slater. The ride became popular with guests, and The Compass of Your Art has been covered multiple times by Japan-based artists with many millions of views on YouTube. Today, we will examine the multiple colonial intersections that led to the creation of this work. We'll begin by examining the source material and the original ride, followed by the changes with the Menken-focused refurbishment, and then conclude with the impact and legacy of the ride. I thought it might be nice today to start with a video showing the entrance and ride experience of Sinbad's storybook Voyage, the revamp in 2007. I won't play this version again today in this talk, so try to remember as much as you can. Pay close attention to the instruments featured both visually and orally, as well as the narrative the ride presents. 1001 Nights is a collection of folk tales compiled in Arabic during the Islamic Golden Age. The history of the work is complex and still unclear to modern scholars. However, Orientalists agree that the work is composite. Robin Urban summarizes, most scholars agree that the Night was a composite work and that the earliest tales in it came from India and Persia. At some time, probably in the early 8th century, these tales were translated into Arabic under the title Alf Layla, or the Thousand Nights. Then in Iraq in the 9th or 10th century, this original core had Arab stories added to it. And then perhaps from the 10th century onward, previously independent sagas and stories were added to the compilation. Then from the 13th century onward, a further layer of stories were added in Syria and Egypt, many of these showing a preoccupation with sex, magic, or lowlife. In the early modern period, yet more stories were added to the Egyptian collections so as to swell the bulk of the text sufficiently to bring its length up to the full 1001 nights of storytelling promised by the book's title. Les Mille et une Nuits, conte arabe traduit et français, hereafter Les Mille et une Nuits, is a 12-volume French translation published between 1704 and 1717 by Antoine Galland. He included short stories not found in the originals after all of those editions, such as Aladdin and Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves. The Tale of Sinbad was one of Galland's later editions, not featured in the 14th century manuscripts, instead appearing as independent cycles in the 18th and 19th century collection. Galland discovered a manuscript of the Tale of Sinbad the Sailor during the 1690s and published a translation in 1701. English translations were based off Galland and often featured the same editions. Before we dive into the ride's history, it may be useful to know the general narrative presented in the ride. In the first voyage, Sinbad encounters a large whale, though the ride omits parts of the story about the riding on about an island on the back of the whale, as well as a king's horse underwater. In the second voyage, Sinbad discovers an island with rock eggs and a valley full of diamonds and snakes. With the rock close by, Sinbad's fellow travelers cook some meat that Sinbad adds to his back, leading the rock to therefore carry Sinbad back to its nest with a bunch of diamonds. In the third voyage, Sinbad is cast upon an island, notice a theme, where he and his companions are captured by a single-eyed, huge creature in the likeness of a man, who begins eating his crew. Sinbad therefore constructs a raft, attempts to blind the beast, and flees while the monster kills some of Sinbad's companions in the escape. In the fifth voyage, Sinbad discovers an island with a gigantic egg that belongs to a rock. The shipmates set out to investigate, only to break the egg and end up eating the chick as a meal. Bad idea. The crew return to the ships to escape, but the parent rock catches up and drops boulders, forcing another shipwreck. After a brief encounter with the Old Man of the Sea, a ship carries Sinbad to the city of the apes, a place with man-eating apes. After Sinbad recounts his adventure, he finds a ship back home to Baghdad. And while the fourth, sixth, and seventh voyages would prove useful in other adaptations, none are presented prominently in the ride. Fast forward to the 20th century. In Japan, Oriental Land was interested in expanding upon their pricey but well-received Disney theme park located just outside of Tokyo. Oriental Land runs Disney brand facilities under a license from the Disney Enterprise in a partnership dating back to 1979. This partnership led to Tokyo Disneyland, which opened in 1983. Oriental Land would go on to announce plans for a second theme park in 1988, just 5 years later. But it wasn't until 1997 the plans for Tokyo Disney Sea were made public. Tokyo Disney Sea was designed to be a water-themed park, as opposed to Disney's water parks, such as Typhoon Lagoon Water Park. Original plans in 1992 featured a Seven Seas theme, with rides based off the various seas to be included. Upon opening, 7 themed ports of call served as the basis of the layout of the park. Entering the park, you would pass through the Mediterranean harbor and following a clockwise path, you visit the American waterfront, Port Discovery, Lost River Delta, and the Arabian coast before venturing center towards the Mermaid Lagoon and Mysterious Island. Featured on opening day on September 4th, 2001, and running through today, the Disney Sea Transit Steamer Line connects all 7 ports together. The Arabian Coast hosts our ride today, themed after Aladdin's Agrabah. It's the 3rd Agrabah-themed land in a Disney park, following Adventureland Bazaar in Disneyland Paris and Adventureland in Magic Kingdom. At the center, the eateries serve Middle Eastern, Indian, and Japanese-style curry. The rides include Jasmine's Flying Carpets, a spinning ride similar to Dumbo the Flying Elephant, where riders control their carpets, and a Caravan Carousel, a 2-story merry-go-round. The 3rd ride, Sinbad 7 Voyages, opened alongside the park as an interior old mill boat ride. So now what I'd like to do is look at some clips of the original Sinbad 7 Voyages. See if you can catch elements of the narrative from those 7 voyages. While the telling of the tale is quite invigorating on the first examination, the ride failed to capture the interest of the general public. Park goers, according to data, would ride the ride once on their first visit and skip it upon repeated visits. Oriental Land took note and received feedback that the ride was too dark for children and families. Although the telling was similar to the original tales, the lack of brightness in the theming led theme park goers to complain about the ride, especially when compared to the surrounding flying carpets of Jasmine's and the two-story carousel. Children were scared. According to park goers, this Arabian Night was too dark. Oriental Land took note and refurbished the ride in 2007, and as you could see, most of the original animatronic models remained. Much more positive disposition this time. Right? The Tiger Cub edition serving as Sinbad's sidekick throughout multiple scenes. Okay. Some of those images there. I want to take a moment to share my personal experience with the ride. I visited Tokyo Disney Sea in May of 2018 and dutifully observed each port of call. It was my first time at a Disney park, so I recall the layout and rides vividly. My wife and I also took many pictures of the experience. When we arrived at the Arabian coast on our first pass-through, we noted that one of the rides, we thought about riding one of each of the rides in the Middle Eastern-themed area. However, all we noticed were kid-themed attractions, a carousel, flying carpets. We rode them both anyways, but okay. We soaked up the experience as a quick ride on the Genie at the Caravan Carousel and moved on with the park. Later, near the end of the day, we were scouring our map to see if there were any rides that we missed. And as first-time park goers, we had marked several must-ride attractions in the park. Upon further inspection of our map, we had bypassed Sinbad's storybook voyage. The exterior was unassuming. Perhaps this explained how we missed it in our first lap of the park. Quickly, we realized there was no ride built exclusively for young children. Once inside, we could hear music preparing us for the ride. We hopped into a very short queue around 7:30 p.m. after soaking up the atmosphere. We heard music, similar fanfare to most of the ride queues in the park, and to this day, I do not know if Minkin was involved with those queues. But once we saw the Dark Boat ride and heard the fanfares linking in to the final sequences of the queue, we were excited. This ride was going to be special. Sinbad's storybook voyage left an immediate impression. From the adorable Chandu to the intoxicating lilting rhythm, this ride was nothing like other old mill rides I've experienced with the cringe and nagging musical backing. We had no idea at the time the rich history behind the ride, just that the tale was enjoyable, cute, memorable, and featured great music. We rode it again immediately before rushing to make the end of the day show common in most Disney parks. At that time, I did not know we were experiencing three of the four original rides on the Arabian coast, while Sinbad's Storybook Voyage was a revamp of a less successful ride. Okay. In the revamp, Sinbad is triumphantly sent away. The mermaids who were evil now help Sinbad. Sinbad sees pirates attempt to steal the eggs. Sinbad frees a giant from pirates. The giant now joins Sinbad on a giant ribab. The Sultan Palace shows Sinbad's new music instrument collection. The monkeys and the apes are celebrating. And the finale celebrates the friends Sinbad made along the way. The ride is now Disneyfied. What also struck us is the music. It was great, easily the best musical number we experienced all day. After a quick Google, thanks to the wireless satellite pack we received at the Tokyo airport, we discovered it was composed by Alan Menken with lyrics by Glenn Slater and sung by Kenji Sakamoto. Okay. Let's listen to Menken sing Compass of Your Heart at Japan's 2018 D23 Expo. This performance should give us a little insight into the process behind the traditional songwriting those two employed.
One song I've never performed in public before, ever. It's a song just for you, Japanese D23 fans. From the Sinbad ride. Lift your sails to the heavens and fly on the breeze. Head across the horizon to seek brand new seas. Life's a you've seen life's great treasures, follow the compass of your heart. Life is the greatest adventure. There is no map, there's no chart. But if you seek life's great treasures, follow the compass of your heart.
Menken and Slater were collaborating frequently in this period, beginning in 2004 with the Disney's animated musical Home on the Range and the 2006 Broadway show Sister Act the Musical. Following Sinbad, the two would collaborate on Disney's Tangled in 2010. Compass of Your Heart, the song for the ride, features a lilting 6/8 meter with occasional syncopation in 3/4. A handful of traditional Arabic instruments remain, but overwhelmingly the score is dominated by a Western symphony orchestra. At a few key moments, one could sense the animatronics performing a cello or double bass while singing a rebab. The refurbishment borrows elements from popular rides in other parks. It's a Small World. According to Barber and Spickard, the It's a Small World song by Robert Sherman and Richard Sherman, also known as the Sherman Brothers, reinforced the strong Euro-American artistic vocabulary of traditional instruments and dress against a backdrop of iconic animals and architecture. It's also derided as, quote, one of the most nauseating tunes of all time. Nevertheless, Small World is also an old milled ride with a verse-refrain formal structure common in Tin Pan Alley writing of the Sherman Brothers, as well as the musicals they wrote. Likewise, Small World is coded and framed within a major key, which attuned to Western listeners as bright and happy. The ride conveyed multiple cultures within this framework and has a lineage of problematic generalizations that will be covered at other talks at the conference. But Menken understood the boat ride analogy. Speaking at D23, he remarked, "One thing I learned about writing these songs for these rides was that you have one room that meets up against another. You can't add a key change because the music will clash as the boat is going through. So it is a skill set. Compass of Your Heart maintains the same key throughout from room to room, as in the same way as Small World. Also borrowing from Small World is Compass's major key, though with significant Mixolydian inflections throughout. The secondary dominant and cadential tonic both codify the work within a Western harmonic perspective." Interestingly, the Western framework for the new refurbishment song contrasts heavily with the original ride. In Sinbad's 7 voyages, Arabic signifiers dominate the musical texture. Sections of the voyage use Phrygian mode as Sinbad is in danger, while the Phrygian dominant is employed in scenes of Sinbad's home. As the boat passes through, animatronics rigged with single mono speakers, ricks similar to tambourines, and yargul, a wind instrument, emanate to accompany the track. Perfect force above chords symbolize stability in the town. Sinbad has a beard. In the reboot, however, these elements are supplanted or modified. Menken was familiar with Middle Eastern signifiers from his work in Aladdin, where all songs but one, A Whole New World, feature at least one signifier. A major key throughout this ride is splashed with instances of Mixolydian coloring. Mono speakers produce the sound of a rick, darbuka, and Sinbad's oud, an Arabic lute, as Arabic musical instruments held by animatronics are more prominent in the revamp. However, these single speakers serve to color the scene instead of being the musical foundation. Another example of this is the Persian santur, a type of hammered dulcimer, featured only in the Rock Island scene with added chromatic circling. Large string sections and brass dominate the musical texture, elements common to the Western Symphony Orchestra. Bright major chords encompass the town sections, replacing the Middle Eastern signifiers. A jam session with apes is the only time we hear a lack of central tonality, or the yar'ul, though characters hold the instrument in other scenes. Sinbad shaved no longer has a beard. One could argue this is simply the practice of remediation, a concept in media where desired elements of a technology or genre or thoughts are reincorporated and presented as new, while undesired elements are left behind. The ride was refurbished, the animatronics returned with alterations, the boat path was the same, there's even more instruments now. However, the exercise of a seeking profit company like Disney and Oriental Land are seeking to do in the refurbishment provides another lens, that of colonialization. The story of Sinbad begins with Greek tales adapted into a new regional power of the Ottoman Empire. The story was then presented alongside other instances of colonization of 1001 Arabic Nights, as other stories were borrowed and adapted from weaker, in terms of monetary and military power, countries and regions of northern Africa and India. Sinbad was a discovery by Antoine Galland, translating Sinbad into French for the riveting French exoticism at the time, though elements of the original were absolutely censored for the French audience. Later, Galland presented the translation alongside Les Mille et Nuits. That version was translated into English and spread around the world. Much like the origin of the story of Sinbad, colonization is present throughout the initial adaptation and revamp of Sinbad. The ride was not Disney's first foray with the story, replacing Sinbad with Mickey Mouse in a 1978 storybook. The intersection of a vast media empire borrowing elements from the original while discarding others, such as in the original Sinbad's 7 Voyages, is textbook colonization. Similarly, stronger Arabic signifiers are supplanted with a Broadway style. The ride is now popular. More tickets are being sold. In no small part, I believe the ride revamp occurred after lagging ticket sales after the 9/11 attacks. Depiction of Arabic culture became taboo in the immediate aftermath, and part of the scary original ride may be attained to a brown man with a beard. Western harmony drives the new ride, and Arabic signifiers are secondary as a result by no accident. Bear in mind, the audience for Disney Sea is primarily Asian. Oriental Land is based in Japan, but Disney is an American company. Both countries are colonizers. Lagging rides seem to be a convenient excuse. During my rides, I was able to stay on the boat for a second trip, though a majority of attendees rushed for prime seats for the fireworks show at the end of the day. But what drew me to this ride? The music was prototypical Menken, presented in a new form. Menken's music was critical for the Disney Renaissance of the 1990s, an era I grew up in. The Disney signifiers resonated with me in the ride before I had a chance to look up the composer. The Disneyfication worked. I was entranced by magic, the quintessential Disney ride that I had no idea existed. And to be honest, I would ride it again if given the chance. But what about those without this context? What does the revamp mean to them? To close today, I have some unfortunate news that the proper ending has yet to be written. In it, I would tie together loose ends and speak to the song's popularity today. At the time of this presentation, Sinbad's storybook voyage is closed through September of this year. Perhaps another revamp is coming. Hopefully, maybe just refining the animatronics after a few decades of use. Before we get to questions, we won't play this today, but you should check this out. This is by the Showa College of Music. They put this on during the COVID quarantine. It's absolutely something that you could put on here at UNO. Do a wonderful job. Check this out, Compass of Your Heart. So I'm happy to take any questions that you have. Thank you for listening, and I hope you look forward to the full presentation at the All Ears Conference in June. Thank you. Yes, Joe.
So you're formatting for this, were you going for something similar to like Defunctland?
Yeah, that definitely resonated somewhere. Yeah, I think Defunctland could be credited there. Yeah. If Defunctland's video comes out before mine, I don't know what I'm going to do. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yes.
You know if Megan wrote it with the Japanese lyrics in mind, or if he wrote it in English and then it was translated?
Yes, it was written in English and then translated. We know that much. Both of these composers worked with the English language first. Mm-hmm. From what I hear, they did work alongside a translator, what my research has shown so far. But I'm not sure exactly when those came into the process. My understanding was that it happened after. Yeah. So it's a good question. Let me look into that. Yeah.
Where and when is the All Ears Conference?
Yes, it's in Orlando, Florida, right? At the end of June, June 28th, or 27th and 28th, I believe. And it's all about theme park music and theme park audio. So I'll let you know if it's going to be streamed somewhere or if there's some way that student access. Sometimes that's free or cheap for students to see music, to those conferences. Yeah. Yeah.
How does your perspective as a composer, or how did your perspective as a composer influence this research and like your pull to this writing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think certainly my experience with video game music and listening to loops, I was really attractive to like, how can you make a 13-minute ride with basically the same song be interesting throughout? I think he does a pretty good job of that. So I think that's probably the closest parallel. I could sit and listen to this as I did yesterday working on it, like nonstop all day, and like be okay with that. So maybe that's part composer, part listener as well. Yeah. All right, one more.
Oh, I know you didn't see the ride before, but which version did you like better?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I kind of like the Disneyfication one a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of a Minkin guy. Yeah, I mean, that's my childhood. It hits the nostalgia bones. As far as what's the better ride, I think the other one would leave an impact, but it's kind of hard to know, right? Like, I don't know if I would stick around to ride it twice like I did, which again maybe ties back to Gibbs' question about like, how does it relate to your composer? And it's just cycling through, sitting on the same ride. Maybe, I don't know. But I do think that the, coming at it with a Western perspective that I grew up in, maybe it resonated with me more that way because of that.